Have you ever noticed how some people seem to draw others in like a magnet, while others, without even realizing it, slowly push people away? It's not always about what we say. Often, it's the little habits, the subtle patterns that speak the loudest. And the hard truth? As we get older, some of these habits can creep in without us even noticing. Now, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to help, because no one wants to feel left out or invisible, especially in our later years. We all want connection. We want to feel respected, heard, and included. But sometimes, without meaning to, we can create walls instead of bridges. In this video, we're going to have an honest heart-to-heart about 10 habits that might be doing more harm than good. These are things that quietly make people uncomfortable or create distance, and the worst part is, many of us don't even know we're doing them. But the good news? With a little awareness and some small changes, you can shift the way others feel around you, often instantly. Let's talk about the first one. And this one might sting a little, but it's important. Constant complaining. Life brings its challenges, no doubt. Aches and pains, frustrations with how the world has changed, maybe even grief over how things used to be. But when every conversation turns into a list of what's wrong, people start to pull away. It's not that they don't care, it's that they feel powerless to fix it. And when someone constantly brings a heavy cloud into the room, others naturally look for the sunshine somewhere else. You don't have to pretend everything's perfect, but try this. If you catch yourself starting with a complaint, pause. Ask yourself, is there something positive I can add to this? Instead of saying, nothing is the way it used to be, try, things have changed, but I'm finding new ways to stay involved. That small shift doesn't just help others, it uplifts you too. Now, let's talk about another habit that quietly drives people away, even though it comes from a good place. Unsolicited advice. Look, you've lived a full life. You've got wisdom, experience, lessons others could truly benefit from. But the hard reality is, when advice is given without being asked for, especially to younger people, it can come off as criticism, even if that's not your intention. It makes them feel like you don't believe they can figure things out on their own. Instead of jumping in with a solution, try simply listening. And if you really feel the urge to help, ask first, would you like my perspective on that? 9 times out of 10, people will say yes, and when they do, they'll actually hear you. And here's one more that often goes unnoticed: dwelling in the past. Now, reminiscing is beautiful. Telling stories, sharing memories, laughing over the good old days, there's nothing wrong with that. But when every conversation becomes a time capsule, when the past overshadows the present, people begin to feel like they're not really part of your world. They might even feel like you're not interested in theirs. The key is balance. Share your memories, yes, but also stay curious. Ask your grandkids about their music. Show interest in how your neighbors spend their weekends. Stay engaged with now. Because when you stay present, people feel seen. And when people feel seen, they naturally want to be around you. Now that we've looked at those first habits, complaining, offering too much advice, and getting stuck in the past, let's keep going. Because awareness is just the beginning. Let's take a deeper look at how we can stay connected, respected, and truly appreciated, no matter our age. When you become aware of how these small behaviors affect others, it's like turning on a light in a dim room. Suddenly you start to see things more clearly, and that's not something to fear, that's something to celebrate, because awareness means power. It means you're not stuck in old patterns. You can choose something better, starting right now. Let's talk about another habit that often pushes people away: interrupting or dominating conversations. This one often comes from excitement, or even from wanting to relate. You hear someone talking and you think, oh, that reminds me of something that happened to me. And before you know it, you've jumped in and taken over. The problem is the other person may walk away feeling unheard or invisible. Letting others finish their thoughts, even if you disagree or already know what they're going to say, is a powerful way to show respect. And instead of immediately responding with your own story, try asking questions that invite them to keep sharing. Something as simple as, really? What happened next? can make someone feel valued, and that feeling brings people closer to you. Now let's look at another one, and this one's a little tricky. Being too negative about younger generations or modern life. Yes, things are different. Yes, some changes are frustrating. But when comments like, "Kids these days have no manners," or "The world's gone downhill" become part of everyday talk, it creates a wall between you and the very people who might want to connect with you. You might mean it lightheartedly. You might be venting. But from their perspective, it can feel like a blanket judgment. And that's not easy to be around. Try looking for moments to praise instead of criticize. Compliment the young person who helps you with your groceries. Thank someone for teaching you something new. Positivity is magnetic, and it doesn't mean ignoring the hard things. It just means choosing to focus on the good too. Here's another habit that's often overlooked, but it quietly creates distance. It's lack of curiosity. Over time, it's easy to feel like you've seen it all, heard it all, done it all. But when you stop asking questions, stop learning, or stop showing interest in others, you begin to close yourself off from the very thing that keeps relationships alive: connection. It might be as simple as asking your neighbor what book they're reading, or listening to your granddaughter talk about her new job, even if you don't understand the technology behind it. Showing interest doesn't mean you have to fully get it. It just means you care. And when people feel that from you, they're drawn to it. So far, we've explored habits that, without meaning to, can make people pull away, interrupting, criticizing modern life, and losing curiosity. And maybe as you're listening, you're recognizing one or two of these in yourself. That's not a reason to feel ashamed, that's a reason to feel empowered, because the fact that you're still here, still learning, still growing, that says everything. Let's keep going and uncover a few more habits that, once understood, can help you build stronger, more loving connections, one genuine moment at a time. You've made it this far in the conversation, and that already says something powerful about you. It means you care, not just about how others see you, but about how you show up in the world. That kind of self-awareness, it's rare, and it's the first step toward creating deeper, more meaningful relationships at any stage of life. Now let's talk about a habit that many people don't recognize right away: oversharing personal struggles too often. Let's be honest, life gets heavier as we age. We lose people, deal with health issues, and face uncertainties that younger folks might not fully understand yet. But when every conversation turns into a health report or a list of personal troubles, people start to feel overwhelmed. Not because they don't care, but because they feel helpless. There's a difference between being honest and being emotionally draining. Vulnerability is important. It's part of real connection. But it works best when it's balanced with resilience. You can say, "It's been tough lately, but I'm finding ways to get through it," rather than just listing what's wrong. That little bit of hope makes a big difference in how others respond to you. It shows strength, not just struggle. Now let's look at another quiet habit that can create distance: refusing help or always insisting on doing everything alone. We live in a world that praises independence, and that's a beautiful thing. But taken too far, it can start to look like pride, or even stubbornness. When someone offers you a hand, whether it's help with groceries, setting up a phone, or just opening a door, and you always respond with, "No, I've got it," you might think you're showing strength. But what the other person hears is, "I don't need you." People want to feel useful. They want to feel like they matter. Accepting help with grace isn't weakness, it's connection. It creates a moment of shared humanity, and it opens the door to deeper trust. So next time someone offers to help, try saying, "Thank you, I'd appreciate that." You'll be amazed how that simple shift brings people closer. And here's a final one to think about: always steering conversations back to yourself. This one sneaks in subtly. You might not even notice you're doing it. Someone shares a story and your instinct is to chime in with your own experience. You think you're relating, but what it can feel like, especially to younger people, is that you're not really listening. You're just waiting for your turn to speak. Listening is one of the most generous gifts you can give, and not just hearing words, but really listening. letting someone feel heard without needing to one-up them or redirect the conversation. When you do that, when you hold space for someone else's voice, they feel safe, they feel important, and they'll want to be near you, not out of obligation, but out of genuine connection. So if you've recognized a few of these habits in yourself, take a breath. That's not failure, it's growth. We all have blind spots. What matters most is what we do once we see them. Because the truth is, it's never too late to become more thoughtful, more open, more connected. You have something incredibly valuable to offer the world. Your wisdom, your presence, your stories. But how you share those gifts matters just as much as the gifts themselves. And when you show up with awareness, warmth, and humility, people feel it. They want to be around you. They listen. They lean in. So remember this. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be real, kind, and open-hearted. That's what makes relationships thrive at any age. If anything here resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe you've experienced some of these habits from others, or maybe you've caught yourself in them from time to time. Either way, your voice